The weight of the dagger in Owen's hand was almost unbearable now. Heat pulsed from it, curling up his arm, setting his nerves alight like fire licking at dry wood. It was as if something deep inside the blade recognized him, called to him. Lucien watched him, unreadable, his fingers still curled around Owen's wrist, grounding him. His grip was neither demanding nor forceful, but there was a quiet strength behind it, something that told Owen he wouldn't let him go unless he wanted to be let go. "You feel it, don't you?" Lucien murmured. His voice was softer now, but no less intense. The weight of its history? Owen swallowed hard. He felt so much more than that. The room seemed different now, sharper, the air charged with something he couldn't explain. He tightened his fingers around the dagger's hilt, ignoring the way it sent another pulse of heat up his arm. "What is this?" he asked, voice hoarse. Lucien's smirk deepened. "That, my dear Owen, is a question with many answers, and all of them require a choice." Owen exhaled sharply. He was getting tired of riddles. "Then give me the simplest one." Lucien hummed, as if considering. "Very well. That blade is older than this country, older than most things that still breathe in this world. It was forged in a time when men still whispered of things they couldn't explain, of creatures that roamed the night." He paused, letting the words settle in the air. "It was made to end them." A shudder crawled down Owen's spine. "And them?" Lucien nodded, his gaze never leaving Owen's. "Yes, but as with all things crafted by mortal hands, it was flawed. You see, a weapon forged to destroy something other must bear a part of what it seeks to kill. And in doing so..." He trailed off, his lips curling into something wicked. "It became cursed." Owen's grip tightened on the dagger. "Cursed?" Lucien reached out, his fingers ghosting over Owen's knuckles, barely touching, yet the heat from his skin sent a shiver through him. "Tell me, historian," Lucien whispered. "What do you know of blood magic?" Owen's breath hitched. The way Lucien said it, like a secret pressed against his throat, sent something sharp and hot curling in his stomach. His academic mind fought against his instincts, pushing through the fog of whatever strange hold this place had over him. "I know it was feared," Owen said, voice steadier than he felt. "Outlawed in most places. The idea of using blood, of using life, to fuel magic." He hesitated. "It was considered dangerous, taboo." Lucien's smirk deepened. "Because it is dangerous." Owen frowned, looking back down at the dagger. The symbols on its hilt glowed faintly now, as if awakening from a long slumber. His pulse quickened. "What happens if I use it?" Owen asked. The question left his lips before he could think better of it. Lucien's eyes gleamed. "That, baby boy, is entirely up to you." Owen didn't sleep that night. Even after Lucien had left him alone in the strange room, the dagger resting in its case once more, he couldn't stop thinking about it, about the way it had felt in his hand, the way it had seemed to breathe with him. When he finally returned to his room, he locked the door behind him, his heart still hammering. He collapsed onto the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the eerie silence of Scarlet Moon. Outside, the storm had passed, but the air still felt charged, heavy with something he couldn't explain. And then, just as he began to drift into uneasy sleep, he heard it, that same dragging sound from the night before. Owen shot up in bed, his pulse leaping. He turned toward the door, straining to hear. It was faint, just barely there, but unmistakable. A slow, deliberate drag, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. Swallowing hard, Owen stood. He hesitated for only a moment before grabbing the iron candlestick from the bedside table. A makeshift weapon. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Carefully, he stepped toward the door and pressed his ear against it. The sound had stopped. For a long moment, he considered ignoring it, lying back down and pretending nothing was wrong. But he had come here searching for the unknown, and now it had found him. Slowly, he unlocked the door and stepped into the hallway. The corridor was empty. The candle sconces still burned dimly against the lacquered wooden walls, their flickering light casting deep shadows along the green carpet. Everything was silent, still. Owen exhaled shakily, gripping the candlestick tighter. Maybe I imagined it. And then, from the end of the hallway, something moved. His breath caught. A figure stood there, just at the edge of the darkness, half hidden in the shadows. It was tall, unmoving, its presence unnatural. He couldn't make out details, but he could feel it watching him. Owen's mouth went dry. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back, to run. But he didn't. Instead, he took a step forward. The figure shifted, its form flickering like a candle in the wind. And then, it disappeared. Owen's breath came fast. He felt like he had stepped into something far beyond his understanding, something ancient and restless. Behind him, a voice purred low and dark. "Brave little historian." Owen spun around. Lucian stood there watching him with something dangerously close to amusement. He was leaning against the wooden frame of a doorway, arms crossed over his chest, his expression unreadable. Owen exhaled sharply. "Jesus, you have got to stop sneaking up on me." Lucian smirked. "And miss the pleasure of watching you wander straight into the lion's den?" Owen scowled. There was something here. A figure. Something. He hesitated, glancing back down the hall. "Did you see it?" Lucian tilted his head slightly. "Perhaps." Owen clenched his jaw. "That's not an answer." Lucian pushed off the doorway and took a slow step toward him. "And yet," he murmured, "it's the only one you're getting." Owen held his ground as Lucian closed the distance between them. The air between them was charged, thick with something unspoken. Lucian's eyes flickered, his gaze dipping briefly to Owen's lips before meeting his eyes again. "You should go back to bed, baby boy." The words were soft, but there was something beneath them, an edge, a warning. Owen swallowed. "And if I don't?" Lucian's smirk deepened. "Then I suppose I'll just have to make sure you don't get yourself killed." Owen's heart slammed against his ribs. He didn't know if it was the danger, the mystery, or the way Lucian looked at him. But something about this place, about him, was pulling him under, deeper and deeper. And the worst part? He wasn't sure he wanted to fight it.